look, house hacking is definitely going to be your best friend, right? So, but having said that, there's things that you're going to need to get done before you could get to that point. Remind me again, you're what, 19?
19. Yeah.
Yeah. So being 19 has its pros and has its cons. It's got its pros because you have your whole life ahead of you and there's so many great things on the horizon, right? It's
Yeah.
got its cons because when it comes from a lending perspective, they're not necessarily jumping up and down to lend to a 19-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't make it impossible. When it comes to house hacking, you could still, get somebody to co-sign on the loan like your dad or your mom or something along those lines to help kind of move it there. And what I would definitely like to do is just connect you with my lender, my boy
Love
Nico,
to.
who does all my FHA stuff, right? He does all my FHA stuff. He does my, low down payment conventional loans. I'm going to connect you with him just so you could get the ball rolling there, right? And I did
Thank
this
you.
with one of my interns at D&D. He's in a similar boat. He's 19 years old, 20 years old. He
Yeah.
wants to do house hacking also. And it was the same thing. I connected him with Nico. They discussed it, talked about how they, potentially have to bring his dad on to co-sign, but there's ways to do it, right? So I think first things first is we need to understand that, right? We need to understand like, all
Mhm.
right, what is the way to do it? What are the barriers to doing it? And is that something that maybe we could break through quickly and get you started on fast? Because again, if you're going to save money and you're going to invest, again, my prescription is to do the house hack first. There's a reason
Okay.
for that. The reason for that is house hacking is like investing on training wheels. Okay. When you do it, you get a feel for how it feels to actually go through a lending process, to have interactions with the title company, to have interactions with a seller or a real estate agent if it's on market, to actually close and be in possession of a property. And then you get the second tier of that training, which is project management. If you're doing any renovations on it, right? How to manage a renovation budget, how to put contractors on a schedule, how to deal with delays, how to deal with hiccups. That's so important. And then after that, you're going to get property management because you're going to have to, search for a tenant if it's a multifamily, or if
Yeah.
you're putting people in in single bedrooms, you're going to have to look for tenants for those bedrooms. So the purpose of it is really to give you a good foundation in investing in real estate, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me and for you, a big thing that we need to do is we need to get you in touch with my lender, see where we stand, see what the objectives are that we need to accomplish. And then from there, we could really make a decision of like, hey, is it worth saving 20 G's right now to go into a house hack
Yeah.
versus is it, maybe we put that down the line in 2 to 3 years from now when you're, over 21, you have, more W-2 income coming in, whatever the case might be, you're a little more bankable. And then
Yeah.
we take maybe 10 to 15,000 right now and we put it into some other type of real estate engine to get you, some passive income coming as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely step one. And once we understand that, we'll from there really dissect what the true game plan would be. But just to kind of answer your question, because I don't want you to come off and just kind of be like, all right, well, all Frankie did was tell me to like go back to
No,
house
no.
hacking, right? There are ways that you could still invest. Like you, as a 19-year-old kid, in a similar fashion can go and buy a rental property, right? Like the thing with rental properties are most of these lenders, they don't necessarily look at you and they're like, oh, you're 19 years old. They look at you and they say, cool, what property are you bringing to us? And what does the deal look like? Right. And that's
Yeah.
very important to understand. And again, this all comes with education, with knowledge, with training. You're going to understand what makes a good deal, what makes a bad deal, why it makes it a good deal, why you should stay away from it if it's a bad deal. But ultimately, with a lot of these lenders, they're looking at the property. They're not looking at the person.